The screen was the only light in the cold, quiet room. It showed a city, but not as anyone remembered it. Seoul was silent under a blanket of gray dust. Where tall buildings once touched the sky, there were now broken teeth of steel and glass. Fires still glowed in the rubble, tiny orange eyes in the massive, dark wound. General Park Ji-won stood before the screen. She was not tall, but she stood perfectly straight. Her dark uniform was simple, with no medals. Her face was like stone, but her eyes held the reflection of the burning city. She had been in her office in Busan when the single Kratel warship appeared in orbit. It fired one kinetic projectile, a rod of metal from God. It hit Seoul's center. No warning, no demands, just a message of terror. Now, in the deep bunker beneath the mountains, the leaders of what was left of Earth's governments argued on a video call. Their voices were a mix of fear, anger, and despair. "We must plead for peace. Offer them something," one man said, his face pale. "We should hide our population, disperse," said another. Park Ji-won listened. She listened until she could listen no more. She turned from the screen of ruins to face the camera of the council. "They have already spoken," she said. Her voice was low, clear, and cut through the chatter. It brought a sudden silence. "They spoke with that." She pointed a thumb at the devastation behind her. "They believe this language is the only one that matters. They think if they make the wound deep enough, we will be too busy screaming to fight back." An older diplomat shook his head. "General Park, we understand your anger. But look at the destruction. One ship did this. They have a fleet. What can we possibly do but try to survive?" Ji-won's eyes did not waver. "We can show them they are wrong. Survival is not the goal. Survival is the starting point. They did not attack a military base. They hit a city of 10 million people. They hit universities, hospitals, parks, homes. They did not attack our soldiers. They attacked our idea of a future." She leaned forward, her hands flat on the cold table. "If we only hide, we tell them their lesson worked. We must answer, not with a plea, with a fact." "And what fact is that?" the diplomat asked, his tone tired. "The fact that humans, when pushed from their home, do not just run. They also learn. And they remember." She tapped a control and the screen split. On one side was Seoul's ruin. On the other were schematics, rough, human designs mixed with fragments of recovered Kratel technology from debris that had fallen in the ocean. "They gave us a piece of their technology in the attack. Our scientists, led by Dr. Yoon Eun-ji, have been working. We see a weakness, not in their armor, but in their thinking." She brought up an image of a massive, ring-shaped station in space. "This is Hemlar Station. It is not a warship. It is a communications and data hub for their frontier. It is how they watch this sector of space. It is their eye." She looked at each face on her screen. "They think we are blind, stumbling animals. I propose we go to their eye and we put it out." A wave of protests erupted.
Impossible. Suicide.
"It is possible," Ji-won stated, calm cutting through the noise. "Their shields are strong, but Dr. Yoon believes they have a rhythmic flaw, like a heartbeat. We can slip a needle through at the right moment. We do not have their fleet, but we have one ship, the Jongjiam. It is being finished now. It is built from our best and their scraps. This crew is being chosen. They are people who lost everything in that strike." She paused, letting the image of the station hang in the air. "We will not strike their homeworld. That is what they expect a savage to do. Lash out at the biggest target. We will strike their tool. We will take the data from their eye and show them we can see them, too. And then we will send them a message." "What message could possibly matter to creatures who do this?" the diplomat whispered, gesturing to the ruins. General Park Ji-won turned fully back to the main screen, to the ghost of Seoul. Her stone face finally showed a crack. Not of grief, but of cold, unwavering resolve. "The message is this. You hit Earth first. You thought terror would paralyze us." She turned her head slowly back to the council. "We will show them it forges us. We are coming, not as victims begging for mercy, We are coming as a fact they must now live with. The room was utterly silent. The only movement was the slow drift of dust on the ruined city screen. The argument was over. There was no other path left. The old world of debate died with Soul. This was the new world. A world with a scar, and a woman general who refused to let that scar be the end of the story. She had just declared the next chapter, and it would be written in the cold dark of space, by a ship named for a defiant admiral from a long-ago war. The fight for survival was over. Now came the fight for meaning. The ship did not look like much. In the massive, echoing construction dock, the Zhongjiam seemed like a thing made from scraps. Its main body was smooth, human-made titanium, but along its flanks were patches of darker, oddly textured metal salvaged from the Kretel projectile that had not vaporized on impact. Its engines, based on designs hurriedly pulled from fragments, glowed with a faint, unstable blue light. It was a patchwork creature, born from loss and desperate ingenuity. Captain Lee Daehyun walked slowly along the gantry, looking at his ship. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes missed nothing. A loose panel here, a flickering weld light there. He had been a commercial pilot before the strike, flying passenger jets across the Pacific. Now, he was responsible for this strange vessel and the lives inside it. He stopped at a viewport, looking not at the ship, but at the blackness of space beyond the dock shields. Somewhere out there was the thing that had killed his co-pilot and best friend, who had been visiting his sister in Seoul. "Captain?" a voice said behind him. It was Commander Kim Soo-min. She was young for her rank, but her eyes were old. She held a data pad glowing with streams of numbers. "The final tactical simulations are loaded. The resonance frequency model is unstable, but Dr. Yoon is confident." Daehyun nodded. "Confident." He said the word as if testing its weight. "And the crew? They are arriving," Soo-min said. "All volunteers, all with reasons." Down in the crew bay, the reasons were getting their assignments. Sergeant Choi Min-ho checked the seals on his combat suit for the third time. The suit felt foreign. He was not a space marine. He had been an electrician in the Seoul Metro. He had been on the outskirts, heading to work, when the sky flashed and the world fell in. He had dug for 2 days with his bare hands before the rescue teams pulled him away from the rubble that had been his apartment building. His younger sister, Suji, was inside. She had been studying for a university exam. He carried her student ID card in a pocket over his heart. A scientist in a white coat moved through the bay, her attention on a portable scanner. This was Dr. Yoon Eun-ji. Her hair was streaked with gray, and she had a calm, focused energy. She had been a professor of xenolinguistics, a theorist. Now, she was the person who had found the flaw in the godlike technology of the enemy. She had done it by listening. The Kretel debris hummed. She had recorded that hum and broken it down. She found a pattern in the shield harmonics, a repeating gap so brief it was almost not there. A door that opened and shut in a trillionth of a second. Her job was to make sure the Zhongjiam could slip through that door. Later, in the main briefing room, the full crew sat. There were 50 of them. Mechanics, programmers, soldiers, pilots. Their faces were tight, their eyes hollow or burning. They were not a military unit. They were a gathering of ghosts. General Park Ji-won entered. She did not stand at a podium. She stood before them, looking at each face. "You are not here because you are the best," she began, her voice filling the quiet room. "You are here because you are what is left. Out there," she pointed a thumb at the ceiling, toward space, "is an empire that believes in crushing what it does not understand. They believe we are simple. We are not. We are complex. We remember. That is our weapon." She walked slowly down the aisle. The Zhongjiam is not a warship built to destroy a planet. It is a key. Its mission is to go to the Kretel listening post called Hemlar Station. We will use their own technology against them. We will walk into their house. We will take the data from their core. We will show them we can. And then we will leave them a message. A young engineer in the front row, a man who had lost his entire family, spoke up, his voice shaking. "What if we can't? What if their door doesn't open?" Dr. Yoon Eun-ji answered from the side. The door opens. All doors open and shut. It is a law of physics. We have just learned to hear the click of their lock. Her voice was quiet but certain. Captain Lee Dae-hyun stood next. The journey will take us through unmapped space. It will be dark. It will be quiet. You will have time to think. Remember why you are here. Let it steady your hands, not cloud your mind. We have one chance. We will be a whisper they never thought to listen for. Sergeant Choi Min-ho felt the plastic of his sister's ID card through his suit. He was not here for revenge, he realized suddenly. Revenge was a fire that burned out. He was here for proof. Proof that Suji's life, that all the lives in the dust, meant something more than just a warning from an empire. They were a reason. General Park gave the final order. Prepare for departure. We go in 12 hours. The crew moved out, a quiet flow of purpose. In the dock, the Jongjeom sat under the bright lights. Its patchwork hull seemed to absorb the light, holding it in the strange cretel metal. It was ugly. It was hopeful. It was a piece of home, and a piece of the enemy, smashed together and pointed at the dark. Captain Dae-hyun returned to the gantry for one last look. Commander Kim Soo-min joined him. It feels like we are throwing a stone at a fortress, she said softly. We are, Dae-hyun replied, his eyes on the ship's hull. But Dr. Yoon has calculated the exact window to throw it through. And General Park. She has chosen the exact window to make it hurt. He finally turned away. Let's go. We have a long way to travel in the silence. The silence of the nebula was a physical thing. It pressed against the hull of the Jongjeom like deep water. Outside the viewports, swirling clouds of purple and gray gas blotted out the stars, leaving only the dim, ghostly light from the ship's own running lamps reflecting back. They had been traveling through this unmapped cloud for 18 days. It was the only safe path, Dr. Yoon had said. The cretel sensors could not easily penetrate the dense particles. It was like moving through a silent, endless fog. Inside the ship, the quiet was worse. The usual hum of a vessel was dampened, replaced by the low, almost subconscious thrum of the alien engines. The crew spoke in hushed tones, if they spoke at all. There was no enemy to fight here, no immediate task but watchfulness. This left too much room for memory. Sergeant Choi Min-ho ran his fingers over the edge of his sister's ID card. He was in the small gym, hitting a punching bag that swung with a soft, rhythmic thud. Each strike was for a different memory. The smell of her cooking, the sound of her laughing on a video call, the way she would always steal his favorite sweater. The bag was not an enemy. It was just a thing to receive his focus, to stop the images from playing behind his eyes when he tried to sleep. He had stopped dreaming of the rubble. Now he dreamed of the silence before it, the ordinary morning, and he would wake up with a jolt, wishing he could scream a warning into the past. Commander Kim Soo-min spent her hours in the tactical alcove, surrounded by screens. She was not studying cretel battle formations. She was analyzing their communications traffic, the snippets they had recorded before entering the nebula. The patterns were complex, layered. It was not just commands and data. There were subfrequencies, echoes within echoes. It is like a brain, she said to Dr. Yoon Eun-ji, who had brought her a cup of bitter tea. See here? The primary signal is sharp, clear, command. But beneath it, this ripple. It is not random. It is an emotional signature, stress, or perhaps satisfaction. Dr. Yoon leaned in, her eyes sharp behind her glasses. You are suggesting their technology is neurally integrated? That their ships feel? Not feel, Soo-min corrected, zooming in on a waveform, but it registers state. It is a system built by beings who do not separate logic from biology as we do. Their off and on has a mood. She looked up. This is important. If their tools carry emotion, then their terror attack was not just a tactical move. It was an expression. And if we can understand the expression, we can answer it in a language they will feel. Captain Lee Dae-hyun made his rounds. He walked the corridors, noting the posture of his crew. He saw the distant looks, the clenched jaws. He saw Min-ho in the gym, a man fighting a ghost. He saw Su-min and Dr. Yoon, their heads bent over screens, fighting with intellect. His own battle was against the vast, empty time. As a pilot, he was used to action, to the immediate feedback of controls. This creeping, silent journey was a different kind of flight. It was a test of patience he had not trained for. He stopped by the small observation niche, a bubble of clear alloy looking out into the swirling nebula. General Park Ji-won was there, standing perfectly still, her hands behind her back. She did not turn as he approached. "It's the quiet that does it," Dae-hyun said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Makes the mind loud." Park nodded slowly. "They know this, the cartel. They use silence as a weapon, too. The silence after the strike. The silence of space. They think it will break us, make us small." She finally looked at him. Her face was calm, but her eyes were like the nebula outside, swirling with unreadable storms. "But we are using their silence. We are hiding in it. We are thinking in it. They gave us this quiet. We will use it to find their voice." Later, in the mess hall, the crew ate reconstituted food without tasting it. A young communications officer, Kim Jun, finally spoke what many were thinking. "What if we get there and their door is closed? What if Dr. Yoon's frequency is wrong? We will just appear, and then we will be gone. Like Seoul." A heavy quiet fell over the table. It was Sergeant Minho who broke it. He did not look up from his tray. "My sister was studying to be a translator," he said. His voice was rough, but clear. "She loved words. She said the space between words, the silence, was where the real meaning lived." He finally looked at June. "We are in the silence now. The meaning of this, it hasn't been decided yet. We decide it when we get there." The words did not magically lift the mood, but they changed it. The silence was no longer just an enemy, a void. It was a space, their space, to think, to remember, to prepare. In her lab, Dr. Yoon Eunji listened to the hum of the ship's own cartel-engineered systems. She heard the resonance. She adjusted the calibration for the 1,000th time, aiming for that trillionth of a second gap. It was not just a math problem anymore. It was a conversation. She was listening for the locks click in the immense, waiting silence. The Jong-geum flew on, a speck of determined life in the endless, colorful fog. The crew lived with their ghosts, their fears, and a hardening purpose. The silence was not breaking them. It was forging them into a single, sharp point, ready to emerge from the fog and strike at the eye of the empire that had tried to blind them. The nebula ended not with a bang, but with a slow fading. The purple and gray clouds thinned like morning mist, and the stars returned, hard and bright. Ahead of them, against the black velvet of space, hung Hemlar Station. It was a brutal, functional thing. It looked like a massive metal spine with rings along its length, spinning slowly for gravity. No lights decorated it. No elegant curves. It was all sharp angles and dark armor plating. It did not look like a home. It looked like a tool for watching, and for forgetting what it watched. On the bridge of the Jonggeum, the air was cold and still. Captain Lee Dae-hyun sat in his command chair, his hands resting lightly on the armrests. "All stop. Hold position here, in the sensor shadow of that debris field," he said, his voice calm. A small cloud of ancient rock and ice drifted between them and the station, their final scrap of cover. Commander Kim Soo-min's fingers danced over her console. "Station is active. Low energy signature. Minimal life signs concentrated in the central hub. They are not on high alert. They are complacent." "Good," Dae-hyun said. "Let them be." "Dr. Yoon, are you ready?" In the engineering bay, Dr. Yoon Eunji stood before the main emitter array. It was a modified piece of their own cartel metal hull, now humming with a low, resonant energy. She watched scrolling numbers on a screen. "The harmonic is stable. The window will open in 7 minutes. It will last for 1.4 seconds. The flight path must be exact." In the crew bay, Sergeant Choi Min-ho and his 5-person team performed a final check. Their combat suits were a matte black with no insignia. Their weapons were small, efficient. This was not a battle of force. It was a burglary. Minho felt the plastic ID card in his chest pocket. Proof, he thought. Today we get proof. General Park Ji-won's voice came over the ship-wide comm, clean and clear. This is the moment they do not believe is possible. Remember why you are here. Be swift. Be silent. We are not here to conquer. We are here to be seen. Begin the operation. The Zhongjiam moved. It slid from behind the debris field, a tiny, dark shape against the massive station. It did not approach directly. It drifted, as if it were just another piece of cosmic junk, on a course that would bring it within a kilometer of the station's shield perimeter. Resonance pulse ready, Dr. Yoon reported. Her hand hovered over a key. On my mark, 3, 2, 1, mark. There was no flash, no sound. A subtle vibration ran through the ship's frame. On Sumin's screen, a section of the station's shimmering shield wall flickered, a momentary gap no larger than the ship itself. Go, 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 Dae-hyun said, not raising his voice. The pilot, a woman named Jae who had flown commercial lunar shuttles, pushed the controls forward. The Zhongjiam shot through the blackness and slipped through the flickering hole in the shield. It was like threading a needle in the dark while running. Then they were through, inside the shield bubble, drifting in the station's shadow. Shield closed behind us, Sumin confirmed. No alarms. They did not see us. The ship moved closer, a silent predator, until its airlock extended to meet a maintenance hatch on the station's lower spine. With a soft thud and a hiss of equalizing pressure, they connected. Sergeant Minho took a deep breath. The air in his helmet was sterile. Team, move out. Secure the data core corridor. No engagement unless absolutely necessary. Silent protocols. The hatch opened. The other side was dark, cold, and smelled of stale air and ozone. The gravity was light, uneven. Minho led the way, his team floating more than walking behind him. The interior of the station was as stark as the outside. Gray walls, exposed conduits, no signs, no decoration. It felt empty and dead. They moved like ghosts through the empty passageways. According to the stolen schematics Dr. Yoon had deciphered, the data core was 2 levels up. They found a service ladder and climbed. Suddenly, a soft, clicking hum echoed from around a corner. Curtel. Minho froze, pressing himself against the wall. He gestured for his team to stop. Through his helmet's audio pickup, he could hear the slow, dragging steps of the creature. It rounded the corner. It was tall, with long, thin limbs and a segmented carapace that looked both biological and mechanical. It had no visible eyes, just a smooth sensor band across its head. Carried no weapon. It moved with a slow, bored purpose, scanning the floor with a blue light from one appendage. A maintenance worker. It passed within 3 meters of Minho's hiding spot, its clicking hum fading down the corridor. It never looked up. It never suspected. Minho let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. They were so sure of their safety they didn't even look for ghosts. They reached the data core chamber. The door was sealed, but it was a simple mechanical lock, not a complex energy barrier. The cartel had never thought anyone would get this far. Their engineer, a young man named Tae-suk who had lost his parents in the strike, made quick work of it with a focused laser cutter. The door slid open. Inside, the room was alive with soft, pulsing green light. In the center, a massive crystal column, shot through with internal light, rose from floor to ceiling. This was it. The eye's memory. Place the extractors, Minho ordered. His team moved forward, attaching small devices to the base of the crystal. They began to hum, downloading vast streams of information. Ship movements, communications, planetary surveys. Then, a sharp, piercing tone echoed through the station. Red light strips on the walls flashed to life. They found the breach. Sumin's voice crackled in Minho's ear. The hatch connection. You have 5 minutes before their security force is mobilized. Finish and get back. The team worked faster. The extractor bars filled. Minho watched the crystal. In its shimmering light, he did not see enemy secrets. He saw the faces from the ruins. He saw his sister smile. The proof was flowing into their hands. Extraction complete, Tae-suk said. Pull back. Now, Minho said. They ran back the way they came, the station now alive with alarms, a sleeping giant waking up to find a thorn in its side. They were not conquerors. They were a fact. A simple, undeniable fact that had just walked into the heart of the Empire's eye and taken its sight. They fled back to their waiting ship, the data core's secrets in their hands, the station's silence now shattered by their doing. The Jongjiam tore away from Hemlar Station like a shadow fleeing the dawn. Behind them, the station's docking bays glowed with sudden, angry light as Kratel pursuit ships began to launch. The comm was overt on the bridge. Captain Lee Dae-hyun's voice was a steady drumbeat. GE, plot a course back to the nebula margin. Maximum thrust. Sumin, what's their vector? Commander Kim Sumin watched her screens, her face lit by the cold glow. 3 interceptors. Fast. They will be in weapons range in 90 seconds. Their shields are at full strength. Dae-hyun knew they could not win a fight. Their ship was built for stealth, not slugging matches. Prepare evasive pattern Delta. Dr. Yoon, is the main transmitter ready? In the comms room, Dr. Yoon Eun-ji and General Park Ji-won stood before the main array. It was not a weapon. It was a broadcast dish. Park's face was pale but set. Open a channel to the station's command frequency. All ships will hear it. Full visual and audio. On the main viewer, the image of the Kratel overseer, Gorl, flickered to life. His segmented face was a mask of cold fury. The background was a stark command room. Vermin! A translated, grating voice came through. You have trespassed. You will be erased. There will be nothing left of your pathetic ship to drift. General Park stepped forward until she seemed to be looking directly into the Overseer's faceless sensor band. Overseer Gorl, you hit Earth first. You hit a city. You thought we would break. You thought terror was a language we could not speak. Her words were slow, deliberate, like stones dropped into a still pond on the bridge. Sumin called out, Interceptors in range. They are powering weapons. Evasive now, Dae-hyun ordered. The ship lurched, diving sharply as the first plasma bolts streaked past the viewports, lighting the dark with violent green. Overseer Gorl's image wavered but held. You speak. Your words are meaningless noise. Your existence is a mistake we are correcting. Park did not blink. You are wrong. We have learned your language. She nodded to Dr. Yoon. Dr. Yoon pressed a sequence of keys. She did not fire a weapon. She did not send a virus. She opened a data packet and fed it directly into the Kratel fleet's open command channel. On the bridges of the 3 pursuing interceptors, and on Hemlar Station itself, every screen flickered and changed. The tactical displays vanished. In their place, raw, unfiltered footage from Soulplayed.it was not the official news reports. It was from personal devices, security cameras, dash cams. It was the first seconds. The sky turning white, the impossible sound. Then the collapse. A building folding in on itself like paper. A street full of people one moment, a cloud of dust the next. A child's cry cut short. A man covered in gray powder, staring at his empty hands. The sounds were the worst. The screams not of soldiers, but of ordinary people caught in an ordinary morning that had become the end of the world. The footage rolled on, a torrent of horror and loss. It was coupled with a simple, pulsing data translation, a direct emotional and sensory dump that bypassed Kratel logic filters. On the Jongjiam's bridge, the crew watched their own main screen, which showed the feed they were broadcasting. Sergeant Choi Min-ho, who had just returned from the station, stood frozen in the doorway. He saw a familiar subway entrance vanish. He saw a park where he had eaten lunch with Suji turned into a crater. He closed his eyes, but he could not close his ears. The effect on the Kratel was immediate, but not in the way humans might feel. The lead interceptor wobbled in its flight path. Its firing solution broke. The other 2 slowed, their formations becoming unsteady. For a species that used terror as a clean, surgical tool, this raw, chaotic, emotional feedback was like a system shock. It was data with no purpose, no clear command. It was pure, unbearable consequence. Overseer Goral's image was still on the screen, but his translated voice now had a faint, static buzz underlying it. Cease this chaos. This is irrelevant data. This is the data you created, General Park said, her voice cutting through the sounds of crumbling concrete and cries. This is the meaning of your strike. You wanted us to see our weakness. Now you see what you did. You see the faces. You hear the voices. This is not collateral damage. These are people. Remember them. She made a second gesture to Dr. Yoon. The horrific footage shrank to a corner of the Kratel screens. In the main area, a star chart appeared. It was simple. One star was marked with a human symbol for home. Another point, far away, was labeled Hemlar. A bright, uncompromising line connected the two. And then the line continued past Hemlar to another star system deep in Kratel territory. A system their stolen data had just identified as containing key strategic worlds. No words accompanied the chart. No threat was spoken. The message was absolute. You hid us here. We found you here. We can see where you live. The pursuit had completely stopped. The three Kratel interceptors hung in space, drifting slightly as if their pilots were paralyzed by the cognitive overload. Overseer Goral finally spoke. His voice stripped of its sneering confidence, replaced by a cold, bewildered fury. You do not fight. You infect. We fight. General Park corrected him, her gaze unwavering. We fight by making you see. We are coming for you. Not with the silence of terror. We are coming with the noise of 10 million lives you tried to erase. Hear it. Remember it. She cut the transmission. The bridge was silent except for the hum of the engines. On the viewer, the Kratel station and its frozen interceptors receded into the darkness behind them. They were not following. Captain Daehyun let out a long, slow breath. Set course for the nebula. Take us home. Sergeant Minho opened his eyes. He looked at the now black screen where the images had played. The pain was still there, a sharp stone in his chest. But for the first time, it was not just his pain. He had just watched it be handed back to the ones who caused it. It was no longer just a ghost haunting the survivors. It was a weapon, and it had just found its target. The Zhongjiam raced for the cover of the nebula, leaving behind a silent, stunned enemy. They had not fired a single shot in return, but they had fired something else, a memory, and for the first time the Kratel Empire had flinched. The journey back through the nebula was not a retreat. It was a procession. Inside the Zhongjiam, the silence was different. It was not the heavy, waiting quiet of before. It was the quiet after a storm, filled with the echo of thunder. They had the data core. Commander Kim Soo-min and Dr. Yoon Eun-ji worked tirelessly in the lab, pulling secrets from the crystal. They did not find grand plans for invasion. They found logistics reports, resource tallies, efficiency analyses. They found the boring, mechanical records of an empire that saw planets as numbers and life as a variable to be managed. But in the subchannels, the emotional ripples Soo-min had noted, they found something else. They found logs from the single warship that had fired on Earth. The crew's biometrics showed elevated stress before the strike, then a swift return to baseline after. It was a job. A messy one, perhaps, but completed. There was no hatred in the data. There was no joy. There was nothing. A void where empathy should have been. This is their weakness, Soo-min said, showing the graphs to Captain Daehyun. They have removed the emotional cost from their calculations. It makes them efficient. It also makes them blind to what they create. Daehyun studied the lines. And our broadcast? It caused system-wide feedback loops in their ship's neural interfaces. Dr. Yoon said, her voice holding a note of grim fascination. The raw sensory data conflicted with their conditioned emotional suppression. It was like a short circuit. They did not know how to process it. They still don't. On the other side of known space, in the cold halls of Kratel Command, Overseer Goral was being questioned. His superiors were not angry about the loss of data. Data could be recompiled. They were disturbed by the method. The human transmission had caused minor but widespread systems disruptions across the local fleet. Crew efficiency had dropped by 22% for 3 cycles as they performed diagnostics and emotional purges. It was an attack on order itself, Goral argued to his superior, a being known as the Archivist. They weaponized chaos. The Archivist, whose form was even more blended with machine than Goral's, processed this. Chaos is data. Why was this data not filtered? Because it was tied to a primary sensory overload protocol. Their method was primitive, direct. It bypassed our logic gates by flooding them with irrelevance. Then they are not primitive, the Archivist stated flatly. They are adaptive. They have identified a flaw in our architecture and exploited it. A flaw we were unaware of. They did not attack our hulls. They attacked our minds. A long pause followed, filled only with the hum of cooling systems. This changes the classification of the species. They are no longer prey tier. They are contagion tier. Containment protocols must be revised. Back on the Zhongjiam, General Park Ji-1 prepared her next move. She did not prepare a battle fleet. She prepared a data packet. Using the stolen cartel codes, she compiled a transmission. Contained no threats. It contained no demands. It contained human history. Not just the wars, though those were there. It contained the Magna Carta. It contained the poetry of Yun Dongju, written under oppression. It contained the music of Beethoven, composed in deafness. It contained images of the Earth from space, blue and fragile. It contained the scientific method, the search for truth. It contained the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And woven throughout, it contained the names and stories of 1,000 victims of the Soul Strike, pulled from the global memorial databases, including Choi Soo-ji, the aspiring translator. Attached to the very end was the star chart shown to Goral, now annotated with a single line of translated cartel. We are here. You are there. We see you. Do you see us? She broadcast it not just to Hemlar, but on a repeating loop towards the cartel core worlds, using their own hyper-relay network against them. This is our real weapon, she told her senior crew. Not the memory of pain, the context. We show them we are not just screams in the dark. We are the thing that comes after the scream. We are the doctors in the rubble. We are the architects who rebuild. We are the artists who remember. Let them try to process that. The Zhongjiam finally emerged from the nebula, back into the clear starfield of human space. Ahead, the blue-green marble of Earth hung in the black. It looked peaceful from here. You could not see the scar. They were not met by a cheering fleet. A single shuttle approached. On the bridge, a message came through. It was from the Earth Council. General Park, you are ordered to stand down and prepare for debrief. Your unsanctioned broadcast has caused unpredictable diplomatic ramifications. Park smiled, a small, hard thing. Tell the council we are standing by. The debrief will be extensive. She turned off the comm. Captain Daehyun looked at her. They are afraid. Good, Park said. They should be, but not of the cartel. They should be afraid of the old way of thinking. That way died with Soul. We have just given birth to something new, and you cannot put a new thing back in the box. As the Zhongjiam docked at the orbital station, Sergeant Choi Minho looked out at Earth. He thought of the data packet, flying through the dark towards the enemy. His sister's name was in it. Her dream was in it. It was not revenge. It was an introduction. This is who you killed, it said. This is what you now have to understand. The fight was not over, but the first shot of the next war had been fired. And it was not a rod of metal. It was a question. And for the first time, it was the Kratel Empire that had to find an answer. The Earth was not the same. The Zhongjiam docked, but there was no grand welcome. The crew walked down the ramp into a quiet hangar. Officials in neat suits were waiting, their faces tight. But behind a security line, other people had gathered. Mechanics, cooks, other soldiers. They did not cheer. They simply stood, and as General Park Ji-1 passed, they nodded. Some placed a hand over their heart. It was not celebration. It was recognition. The official debriefings were long and tense. Council members argued that Park had risked everything, that her emotional attack could have sparked total annihilation. She sat quietly through the scolding. When they were done, she asked one question. Has the Kretel Empire launched any new strikes? Have their ships moved towards our space? The answer was no. The frontier was silent. We have not won a war, Park told them, her voice filling the sterile room. We have started a conversation. They spoke first with violence. We have answered. Now they must decide what to say next. While the politicians talked, the crew of the Zhongjiam scattered. Sergeant Choi Minho took a shuttle down to the surface. He did not go to the memorial site in Seoul. It was still too raw, too loud with ghosts. Instead, he went to a small town by the sea, where his sister's best friend, Mikyung, now lived. She had saved a box of Suji's things. Mikyung gave him the box without words. In it were notebooks, a favorite scarf, a cheap necklace. At the bottom, he found a sketchpad. He opened it. His sister had been a good artist. There were drawings of their old dog, of their parents, of Minho himself looking grumpy as he fixed a lamp, and there was a series of sketches about space. Not warships, but strange, beautiful planets with 2 moons and graceful aliens who looked kind. Under one, she had written, "If we ever meet them, I hope we can talk." Minho sat on the floor of the small apartment and cried. Not the hard, angry tears from before, but deep, aching sobs of release. He had gone to the stars for proof that her life mattered. He had brought back her own words, her own hope, and fired them at the enemy like a bullet. He realized he was not carrying a wound anymore. He was carrying a message, and it was his job to deliver it, even if she never could. In a high-orbit facility, Dr. Yoon Eun-ji and Commander Kim Soo-min presented their full analysis. The Kretel, they explained, were not monsters. They were a species that had sacrificed their individual empathy for collective, machine-like efficiency. They did not understand the pain they caused because they had surgically removed their own ability to feel it. Our broadcast, Soo-min said, was not an attack on their ships. It was an attack on that surgery. We gave them phantom pain for a limb they cut off long ago. Far away, in the heart of the Kretel Empire, the data packet from Earth arrived. It was flagged, analyzed, and quarantined as a severe contagion risk. But lower-level archivists, whose job was to understand threats, were required to study it. One, designated K-17, processed the files. K-17 saw the wars, the violence, and categorized it as predictable. Then it saw the art. The music created patterns its logic could not resolve into utility. The poetry spoke of stars and sorrow in illogical juxtapositions. It read the story of Choi Soo-ji, a biological unit who spent its brief existence learning to communicate with hypothetical others, and who created images of peaceful first contact. This created a cascade error in K-17's neural matrix. The unit had deleted a city. The city contained units like Soo-ji. Therefore, the unit had deleted not just biological matter but art, potential communication, illogical beauty. The action, which had been logged as Efficiency Cleanse number 8814, now had new, chaotic data attached to it. The emotional suppression protocol strained. For a nanosecond, K-17 experienced something its kind had not felt for generations. A glitch of doubt. It did not rebel. It did not feel sorry. But it filed a revised report. It recommended the contagion tier classification be amended. The suggested new term was anomalous co-sapience. The recommended action was not immediate destruction, but intensified study and behavioral modeling. It was, for the Kretel, a moment of profound confusion. 2 months later, General Park Ji-won stood on a stage in the new Seoul Memorial Plaza. The rubble was gone, but the ground was still bare, waiting for the new foundations to be laid. She did not speak to a huge crowd. She spoke to a camera, and her words were translated and sent across Earth. "We have looked into the darkness," she said, her voice carried by the wind. "We saw our own reflection, and it was covered in dust. We saw the reflection of our enemy, and it was cold and empty. We have thrown a stone into that emptiness, and we have heard an echo. It is not a friendly echo, but it is no longer just the echo of our own screams. It is the echo of a question." She looked directly into the lens. They hit Earth first. And now we have made them look. We have made them see the cost. We are not coming for them with fire. We are coming for them with the unbearable weight of what they have done. We will make them carry it. We will make it part of their calculations. From this day forward, they will never be able to delete a city without also deleting a symphony, a poem, a dream of a girl who wanted to talk to the stars. We have linked our soul to their strategy. Let them try to solve for that. She stepped down. Captain Lee Dae-hyun waited for her. They looked at the quiet, scarred Earth together. "What now?" he asked. "Now," Park said, "we rebuild, and we watch the stars. The next move is theirs. But the game has changed. We are no longer prey hiding in the grass. We are the gardeners who have just planted a seed in concrete. We wait to see what cracks." Above them, the sky was clear and blue. Somewhere in the endless dark, a Kratel archivist named K-17 was staring at a child's drawing of a peaceful alien, trying to compute its tactical relevance, and failing. The war was not over, but the first fragile bridge had been built. It was not made of metal or light. It was made of memory and art and the name of a girl who loved words. And on both ends, for the first time, someone was listening.